What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to show you how Donald Trump uses frame control to always get his way in interaction. We're going to be breaking down some of his most popular clips and show you guys how you can dominate any conversation as well. Alright, so first I want to preface this video by saying this is not in any way endorsement of Donald Trump's politics. However, I think you have to be living under a rock not to acknowledge the fact that Donald Trump is a master when it comes to frame control. He's always able to own the media and typically own his opponent as well, unless someone is really privy to his tricks. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down all these tricks so you guys can apply them to your life as well. Let's start off with a really famous clip.
The first debate, we had millions of people fact-checking, so I expect we'll have millions more fact-checking because, you know, it's just awfully good that someone with the temperament of Donald Trump is not in charge of the law in our country.
Yeah, because you'd be in jail.
Secretary Clinton.
So he just said 5 words, and those 5 words are more effective than anything Hillary Clinton has done throughout the whole debate. Because Donald Trump recognizes that winning a debate isn't logical, it's emotional, right? Most people go with their emotions, and he's able to make the crowd laugh, right? And when they're laughing, they think maybe there's a truth to what he's saying. Maybe she should go to jail. He hasn't outlined any logical reasons why she should go in jail. He hasn't outlined any logical reasons why, you know, he's not a liar. He just completely pivots with humor, and it works really well because he's able to get the crowd on his side, and that's what matters. And the best way to do that is with witty one-liners and humor, and you're going to see this time and time again. So this is kind of the lesson you can apply is, again, instead of trying to do everything logically when you have an altercation, trying to do something, instead appeal to people's emotions and use humor to get your way. Let's take a look at the next clip.
This is a tough business to run for president.
I know, you're a tough guy, Jeb.
And we need to have a leader that is real tough. You're never going to be president of the United States.
All right, so take a look at what's happened so far. So Jeb Bush is trying to make a logical point, and Donald Trump, again, uses humor to make him look bad. He starts mocking him, which, again, is a double-edged sword because sometimes you come off looking like a dick to the crowd. But this time, you know, it gets the crowd laughing. So it's always important not to go too far when it comes to that. Now, look at what's happened. Jeb Bush is getting really riled up. And again, well, probably rightfully so. But when it comes to these situations, the person that gets riled up loses. At least that's the way it's perceived when it comes to other people, right? So you can never let your emotions get the best of you. And this is something where Donald Trump has done a good job of getting his opponent to let his emotions get the best of him.
Insulting your way to the presidency.
Let's see, I'm at 42 and you're at 3, so
Doesn't matter.
Far I'm doing better.
Doesn't matter.
So far I'm doing better. You know, you started off over here, Jeb. You're moving over further and further. Pretty soon you're going to be off the end.
So once again, he's using humor. But this is very interesting because you saw how Donald Trump is able to interrupt his opponents in order to get his points across. Well, now let's take a look at what happens on the other side of a coin when someone else tries to interrupt Donald Trump.
Well, let me just, you know, he wants to be a tough guy. A lot of times you'll have, and it doesn't work very well with
How tough is it to take property from an elderly woman?
Let me talk. Quiet.
How tough is it?
Now look at the massive difference between how Donald Trump handles being interrupted and how Jeb Bush handles interrupted. He's literally treating Jeb like he's the gum on his shoes. Again, this is a double-edged sword because if you take it too far, which I think Donald Trump kind of did in this thing, right, you're going to get the audience going against you. But watch how Donald Trump handles the audience not being on his side.
That's all of his donors and special interests out there.
This was masterfully done. He uses labeling to basically come the point across that the audience is biased, right? Now, we have no evidence that the audience was actually biased or that they're special donors, right? I never really looked into that. But by labeling the audience as being biased, anyone who's watching this is going to suddenly dismiss their reactions because we're very tempted to go with what, you know, most people say. Like, peer pressure is very powerful. So Donald Trump knows this, and he knows, oh, geez, if the audience is not on my side, right, you know, people watching this at home, you know, might not like what I have to say. However, if I automatically characterize them as being biased, then they're just going to dismiss everything they're saying, right? And Donald Trump did this over and over again, you know, with the nicknames like Crooked Hillary or Lying Ted, all that stuff. He would categorize his opponents in a very catchy way, and that would dismiss everything they're saying. Now let's go to the next clip.
You've called women you don't like.
Now this is probably one of my favorite Trump moments ever.
Fat pigs, dogs, slobs, and disgusting animals. Your Twitter account.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it wasn't.
So the charges that this lady is laying out are perfectly, reasonable and logical, right? Donald Trump does have a history of calling women names, right? And I personally don't really give a shit about that, but a lot of women, a lot of people in general would give a shit about that. And he knows that logically he cannot win this battle because the facts are against him, right? So if he starts logically arguing with this lady, right, he's going to lose, right? Because again, the facts aren't on his side. So he uses the tool that he always uses, which is humor, right? And then also pivoting the conversation. He can't just pivot the conversation without addressing her point at all, because then people are going to be like, ooh, he's dodging, right? So you can't do that. But when you combine that with humor, get the crowd laughing, then you can pivot, which is something he does, because talking about this is only going to work against him. Now let's take a look at what happened a little bit further in this discussion.
How will you answer the charge from Hillary Clinton, who is likely to be the Democratic nominee, that you are part of the war on women?
I think the big problem this country has is being politically correct. I've been challenged by so many people, and I don't frankly have time for total political correct.
So notice how he does not really address her point. This is something Trump does time and time again. When his opponents give him shit on points that he's weak on, he doesn't logically address them. He pivots, but he does it in a very successful way. Now, in this situation, he doesn't use humor, but what he does is he uses a truism, right? A truism is something that everyone knows is true. No one really likes political correctness. Everyone knows that political correctness has gone too far, right? So he's touching on that truism, and he's getting the crowd in their emotions, right? They're like, yeah, I hate political correctness, right? He knows that, and he uses that to his advantage, and then he's able to successfully pivot.
And to be honest with you, this country doesn't have time either. This country is in big trouble. We don't win anymore. We lose to China. We lose to Mexico, both in trade and at the border. We lose to everybody.
Now that he's pivoted, he does his next tool that he does all the time, which is using fear, right? Scaring the shit out of people. Everyone is a little bit worried about China. That's something that's in the back of every American's mind, but he plays it up. He really plays into it as a way pivoting away from points that he's weak on. And of course, I could not wrap up any Trump video without this clip.
I have to say this. He hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
Donald Trump might be the only president in U.S. history to talk about his penis publicly. I mean, this is hilarious, and I feel like no one else could get away with it besides Trump. But because Trump acts very polarizing, he says shit that's out there, he's able to get away with this because it's not even like the top 10 craziest things that he's ever done. So what are the big takeaways here? Well, I think the biggest one is the power of humor. Quite often people are very logical. I see this on speed dates, I see this on debates, and there's definitely a time and place for that. I'm not saying don't use logic. However, Donald Trump recognized that quite often humor is way more powerful. So what Donald Trump does, especially when it's a point that he's really weak on, instead of trying to logically address it, what he does is he gets a really funny one-liner, distracts everyone, makes them laugh, and then he pivots the interaction. That is something you can do whenever you're pressing a point that you're weak on. However, be careful because you're facing a very skilled opponent that might call you out on that. So don't do it too much. The second thing that Donald Trump is notorious for is winning over the crowd. He recognized that it doesn't matter who's right or wrong. What matters is who people think is right. And the best way to win over crowds is to make them feel strong emotions. So quite often that emotion is humor, right? Donald Trump makes them laugh. They're laughing, blah, blah, they're having a good time. That's the first thing. The other one that he does is fear, right? Which may seem counterintuitive, but again, it's a strong emotion. So he scares the shit out of people, right? And then he anchors it to him. He's like, hey, the country's going down the drain, we're all fucked. However, I'm going to fix the problem. The goal is to make people feel strong emotions. People love emotions, right? People are craving emotions. Now, people like to LARP around and say, oh, I'm all logic. Well, that's not true. People live for emotions. If you can make people feel strong emotions, they're going to be tied to you. And the third thing that Trump does is labeling. This is very, very effective. I've never seen any other candidate do that. So basically labels everyone, like Crooked Hillary, Lying Ted, and that is very effective. Even if you're a big fan of Hillary Clinton or Ted Cruz, right, that's going to make you kind of doubt them. That's going to make you not really take them seriously because every time you see their name, you're going to think Lying Ted. That's very effective. It's a tool of labeling the person and basically dismissing them without having to actually address any of their criticism. But anyway, hopefully you guys found this video valuable. Show us some love by smashing the like button, hit subscribe, click that bell for notification, and share this video with a friend. Also, if you want to see more videos on frame control, check out our video on Putin, or check out our brand new PWF Clips channel. We take all the best parts of debates, podcasts, speed dates, and putting them on there. Thank you guys for watching. Until next time.